here in this film, and really the person who's the soul of the film, one of the finest actors of his generation or any other, Mr. Joel Edgerton. Playing Gladys Grenier, and an actor who there seems to be no bounds to what she can do in this movie or any other, Miss Felicity Jones. Playing Claire Thompson, an amazing actor, but also somebody who just lights up any room that she's in, to the point where even the horses on set would kind of turn and see what she was doing. Miss Carrie Condon. And playing Arn Peoples in a way that just astounds me, is incredible. He's somebody who's been a defining force in some of the greatest American films of the last 30 years, and yet says, "Call me Bill." It's Wiliam H. Macy. And finally, a person who wrote this script with me is a collaborator of the last 15 years, somebody who is now my family and without whom I wouldn't even be here, Greg Cuidar. And I'll leave you with this. I'm so thankful you're here. Thank you for coming out tonight. You could have been anywhere. There's 15 other great films playing right now that you could have been at, and yet you chose to come here. It means so much to all of us, and we're excited to share this film with you. It's a story of one person's life, and yet it feels like it grows into something beyond that. And Joel said something earlier that stuck with me that I couldn't get out of my head, so like an artist, I'm going to steal it from him. He talked about how we live in such a fast-paced world, that we're always, like, everything's making us go faster, and there are very few places left that we can just sit and be quiet and connect with each other and reflect. And one of those few places that's left are the cinema houses and the film houses. And being in this theater, which is the oldest continually operated theater in North America, it's beautiful. I can't help but think about all the different people who've come up on this stage over the years, over the decades, all the people after us who will come up on this stage, and we're all part of some bigger story that's moving along that we're just trying to make sense of. And it's a bit easier when we make sense of it together. So thank you for being here. We wouldn't be anything without you. Have a good night. This is Train View.
Well, thank you so much, for this film. I'll say just on a programming note, the first time I saw this film, which was, I think, about like a couple months ago, it was like 9 a.m. midweek. I incredibly fell in love with it, and I was just walking home and could not stop thinking about it. And here I am to be able to have a conversation with all of you. So congratulations, like genuinely on behalf of TIFF and the programming team, to all of you. So let's just start at like the beginning of the project. What was it that drew you to the novel or the novella, and what was it that made you want to make the film that we saw today?
It was actually the first
piece of work that I'd read by Dennis Johnson. I just was at the age to read it when it came out as a book, and I fell in love with it. And it was one that stuck with me over the years. But I don't know, honestly, that I would have had the courage to make it had it not been, I mentioned earlier, but there were some people who had the rights to it and wanted to make it. They saw Jockey and then reached out. And I had just scenes from the book and things bubbled up in my mind over the years, and then I was just so lucky to be taking a part of it. And when I went back and read it, and then Greg and I started talking about if it felt like it could be a good movie, because it's one of those pieces of work that you almost don't want to touch. It's so good, and you don't want to mess it up. But there was just so much that felt so specific to this guy's story, but also that it felt very universal in a way.
And jumping kind of off of the point that you just said, I'm always fascinated by directors and especially screenwriters as well who are adapting novels. What is that process like of that collaboration of what do we keep in, what do we take out, how do we move forward?
I'll let Greg take it a lot. The big thing is that I'll say is in thinking about it as a film, I wanted the film to be completely true to the spirit of the book, but then kind of let the rest go if it needed to. So it could really be its own thing, and not try and redo something that had already been done so perfectly by Dennis Johnson. But I'll let you.
Yeah, thank you. And first of all, this is very surreal to be here because it was actually 2 years and 1 day ago in this theater that our last film, Sing Sing, premiered. I have to say, it'll never get old looking out on this crowd. Thank you so much. As far as the adaptation is concerned, my first engagement with Dennis Johnson as a writer was at this moment where Clint shared the book and was like, I feel this as my next film. And I remember reading it, and at first just being incredibly intimidated and just seeing, the level of the prose, the world, the puzzle of it all, and it's just how do we find our way through it? And I think first when you read a book like this, you have to first just you have to just experience it, you have to let it wash over you, and much like you would if it was a film that you were watching. And then you start to interrogate why those things speak to you, and how do you get in between words and underneath words and beyond words. And then I think the next chapter for us was we actually went to the place. We went to Bonners Ferry, and we wrote in a cabin on the Moye River next to a cabin that actually Dennis Johnson and Emily Johnson had, in the later years of their life, and where the book was inspired from. And then we were in these bars with loggers, and we were in the bookstore. You could buy first editions of Dennis Johnson novels, and we were out in this great forest. And I think that's the moment where you finally can just travel your own path, but because you understand the very heart of it.
Well, and I also wanted to talk a bit about the casting process and then throw it to the cast. But what was it like as you were developing the project of finding these incredibly talented people that we have here on stage? And then for the four of you, what drew you to the project as well?
Yeah, and I'll let them do most of the talking, but I think it was just, we really wanted to find our Robert Grenier first, and it's an incredible tightrope of a performance, and you need just the perfect person who can be masculine and be a logger, but also be gentle and soft and funny and all these things. And he's a character who is a person of few words, and you want somebody who you feel there's a lot going on behind there, even if he doesn't say much. This man is incredible, as we all just saw, and it felt like there was no better person to play that role. And we're very lucky we were able to trick him into doing it.
So on to the incredible man. What drew you to this script?
I really loved the book too, and had read it many years before Clint came to me, and when he did, I felt like there was some special forces at play that, you know, that he must have known. Of course he didn't. I'm glad that he asked me, and before I had read the book, it was different. I was very connected to the book in a different way, and then when Clint came to me, you know, I'd become a dad, and I think I remember I was telling my wife about, I'm going to meet this guy Clint, and you know, she asked me what the story was about, and it was like hard for me to get the words out, particularly about some of the stuff that you see in the film. And I felt more than most of the characters I've played in many years, that I realised I spent a lot of time trying to hide behind characters and play dress-ups. I think dress-ups is what made me want to become an actor when I was a kid, you know, the idea of being other people. And this felt, even though I'm not a logger, and you know, there's a lot of things that are different about it, there's a lot of personal feelings I have about loss and the imagination of loss, and about love, and there's things that made it feel very personal to me, and I felt like of anything that's come my way, it felt very suitable that I could be this person, and I was very pleased that it had come my way.
No, fair enough. And obviously your character is like the anchor of the film, but I want to talk to also like the three of you of like coming like in and out. Like, I mean, there's so much emotion, so much stuff that you have to put in throughout. So what was your experience with like making this film, and what was the ties to the character that you really felt most connected to?
Hi everyone. It was I mean, we've just been watching it now, which was really good, having not seen it for a few months, but it was the fact that it was about birth and death and everything in between. And there aren't many, you don't get to see many films like that. And that it was so much about, you know, the curveballs that life throws you, and how you move on from that, or you don't. And there was something about watching it tonight, just the combination of humour and tragedy, and how close those things are together. Like in any joyous moment, in any loving moment, it's always twinned with its other thing, which is that it will end. And somehow, in the screenplay and then in the film, it just captured that idea.
I think we share something. I'm still really moved by that film, but it was a beautiful script. What you read is what you folks were able to get on the screen, and I think I'm so proud to be a part of it, because it sort of expands what we think, what makes a good story, and what can a film be. And this stretches those boundaries, I think. I'm really proud to be a part of this.
For me, it was just being like part of a beautiful story in a small part. And I've always wanted to be a character actress. And I was like, oh, this would be like just to be in this movie as a whole, even though it's a small part. I just really wanted to do it. I knew Joel was going to do a great job. He's always consistently been very good. And then Clint, just from reading the script, little things made me kind of cry that I think, like, I was like, just really small things that you wouldn't think of. You know, kind of moves you, and you're like, you don't even know why you're upset. I mean, you know, there was just even at the end of it, when he's smiling in the airplane, like he's happy, but I was sad or something. It's very like hard to explain. Like, it was really moved me. And I was like, art is supposed to have this effect on you, and not everything comes your way does that. You know?
Very, very well said. And we only have like a few more minutes left, but I'm kind of curious because like as I was walking away from the film the first time I saw it, obviously I was thinking so much existential stuff, and I'm kind of curious, maybe like Glenn or anyone else on the panel, of what is the takeaway that you want this audience to have with this film?
I don't know. I think we maybe all have our own answers to that, and I don't want to be too prescriptive with it, but I think at the end of the day, and we talked about it in the beginning, and wanted a film that like gave that space to open us up a bit in whatever inside. And I think just that thing where you were walking around thinking about it afterwards, whatever that was, that's what I wanted you to take away from it, in terms of like giving space to reflect, and I think we can get caught up a lot of times in like the ups and downs of life, or the day-to-day, and we can forget that it's a very precious thing just to be here and just going through our day-to-day without doing anything grand, and being the center of some grand endeavor. Like the day-to-day is something really special and beautiful.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I think it's the extraordinary and the ordinary. I think most of us lead lives that we think are ordinary, but they always have an incredible story if we're lucky enough to have a long enough life. And it's not a typical heroicism that we're seeing on the screen, but I think an ordinary life is epic and heroic.
Anyone else? How are you feeling?
I'll just add that it was how I felt when I first read the novella. It was like Clint had given it to me, and by giving it to me, it felt like he was offering some access point to understand him a little better. And maybe that's the power of art, is that we can see each other a little bit clearer. And if I was able to see him through it, I could see myself clearer, and I could understand other people. And so I walk around thinking about that. I'm just very grateful for my friend who turns 40 on Friday. So happy birthday, Clint.
Young fella.
Well, on that note, I'm just getting the signal that we do kind of have to wrap up, but I just want to say on behalf of TIFF and our entire audience here, I absolutely love this film, and thank you all so much.